met Noor, fantastic student, and I know her experience on placements and her final year project was a fantastic inspiration to people who were listening, who were thinking of coming onto our course. And I think so we've many reasons to thank Noor for what she did when she was a student and helping us. And it's great to see her back and with a talk which I think would be really interesting on how I became a Phisher. So I think I could talk at length in detail for a while, but I'll leave it there and give the floor to Noor. So thank you very much, Noor. Nice to see you again, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for that lovely intro. Yeah, so let's get into it. So title is How I Became a Phisher. So you can kind of tell what I currently do. So what motivated me to, let me just break down what my career path has been like. So after my first year of uni at Brunel, I did a 10-week placement at Vodafone, and I think what really motivated me to do that were the careers advisors Raj and Mo. You probably all know of them. So they did a lot of talks with us when we first started in first year about how like work experience is so important, and also I said, let me look for placements for the summer. So so that was quite hard to find as well, because I was pretty young then and didn't really know where to look. So I had all these websites that I went to, and mainly I faced rejection. So most of the time when you apply for internships and placements, you're probably going to face rejection because they're so competitive. It was around like March time where I came across Debut. It's basically like an app where you put in what your skills are, what you're looking for, and they kind of match you with the jobs they have. I don't think many people have heard of Debut, but what they do is they fast track you to the assessment center or like the second last place in the assessment for internships and placements. So that's what happened with me. I got fast tracked to the Vodafone Assessment Center based on the skills I put in. And what companies do is they leave some vacancies for people coming through Debut. So that was really helpful for me, because I was getting really demotivated by March time that all I faced was rejection. And then I got an internship at Vodafone, and I was in the engagement team as an analyst. So we were working with stats. We were working kind of side by side with the tech projects, but it was more like planning out what it was more planning out what the tech projects would look like in like the next year, or where they would be in their roadmap. So that was mainly my job. But as you can appreciate, it was only 10 weeks, and you don't get that much exposure in 10 weeks. But it was really good experience to put on my CV for when I did start looking for placements. So what happened was, when I was looking for placements, I contacted Vodafone again, asking if they have any more roles, and I don't know, it was that luck or what, but they said, yeah, sure, we'll have you back. Like you had a good review from your first internship, so already like I saw the benefit of doing the summer placement. They said, here are a list of departments. Which department would you be interested to go in? And after a lot of thinking, I chose cybersecurity, because I always found that interesting, but I didn't really know much about it. So that's where my interest started for cyber, because I had a really good experience in my my 1 year out placement, and I basically made the decision that I wanted to pursue this as a career. And that's the good thing about placements, that you can either find out what you don't want to do or what you do want to do. So that's what you can focus on when you're applying for grad schemes. So the things I did when I came back to uni in final year, as I knew I wanted to go pursue a career in cybersecurity, I made sure I selected the relevant modules that would help me increase my skills. So from the optional subjects, I chose networking and cybersecurity, which are really closely interlinked. And then I chose SPM as well because I did think that having that business knowledge was really, really important as well. And it did really come in handy for when I did start work. And for my final year project, I based it on cybersecurity. So it was all about DDoS attacks, and unfortunately I couldn't specialize in it because as I started in 2015, cybersecurity wasn't a module then, so I couldn't specialize in it. I could only specialize in the modules that were already present when I started in first year. And then I made sure to book several appointments with Raj, the careers advisor for computer science, because he was really helpful beforehand as well. And he really helped me make my CV like really professional, and I'm still in touch with him because as you know that Raj provides his service to alumni up to 3 years after they graduate. So now I want to make my CV more of a professional CV rather than a graduate level CV. I would advise you, if you want to go into a specific area, just like I did for cybersecurity, not like a generic tech scheme or generic software scheme, I would suggest you specialize in that area because it really helps you grasp the subject, and then you have more to talk about when you go into the assessment center. Yeah, so this is a really important tip. Like, this is something I did and it really paid off. I started looking, like, usually jobs open up around September, October, November time, and they're open until like March, April, some of them, the latest ones. But I suggest you start applying for the jobs once you start finally, as soon as they open, because most companies, they work on a first come first serve basis. So if you're not hired to begin with, it gets really competitive later on anyway. Like I've seen that because I assess assessment centers now at Sky, and I've seen like it gets too competitive later on because they have limited spaces, whereas in the beginning they're more likely to give you a space because they see that they have a lot of spaces open. So most companies are like that, and you are also not burdened with too much work in the beginning of the year, whereas when you go later down the year, so around like November, December time, you start focusing more on your final year project, and you might not have the mental capacity to be applying for jobs, and job searching can get very lengthy because each job application has like 5 to 6 stages that you have to complete, and then you also have to be changing your CV every time or writing a cover letter, so it can get very time consuming. And then I started at Sky. I found out that I got the job early next year, like so around January, February time. I found out, so that I had a secure position at Sky for waiting for me in August. So that was really relieving for me because at least I could focus on my studies and stop applying for jobs. I had another role offer as well at BT, but I chose Sky over that for several reasons. Like location was better for Sky, and the office was better, and it was closer to me as well. And I do think I made the right decision. Yeah, so what I do at Sky is, so I finished the grad scheme in August. So since then, since 2019 August to 2021 August, I was a graduate. So I went to 4 different teams as a rotational grad. I spent 6 months in each team and learned about all the different areas that the main areas of security that I could possibly want to be permanent in. So like one of them was pen testing, where it was very like technical. You had to do testing on applications that people request, because as you know, Sky is really big. They have a lot of in-house and external websites, so they all need testing, and they have apps and they all need testing. So that was like one of the very technical teams I went in. The least technical team I think I went into was consultancy. It was very high level. We would focus more on educating users and performing like phishing simulations. So we would let the customer know that there's a phishing email that's going to be sent out, and it's not a really phishing email, but if they click on it, then they have to do a training. But if they don't click on it and they report it, that means they've passed the test, kind of. And then one of the other teams was threat intelligence. That was more like open source researching that we had to do. And my current team that I'm in was also one of my rotations, where it was incident response. So anything that happens, we have to respond to it immediately and remediate as well. I'm sure you guys are familiar with these kind of wordings because you're computer science students. So that's the team I selected to come back to because I found it really fun. And every day you're doing a different task, and I manage the phishing mailbox as well. So that means anyone that reports any email, I have to investigate it and respond to them. And everyone's sending different emails every single day, so it keeps me busy. Do you guys have any questions so far?
You can ask questions via the chat or raise your hand, but I don't see any questions at the moment in the chat.
Okay, that's fine. So that was my career journey so far. And then the next step I took with my husband is that we started our own freelancing business for UX and UI. That's something he works in. So I manage the business side of things, which I really find interesting as well. Like talking to customers, getting requirements, and it's just a lot of back and forth. Like if anyone is studying SPM, then they would know what that takes. So you have to we work in a Scrum environment. So we take the requirements, then we work on something, then we get the feedback, then we work on it again. But that's what it is like. We've got a page on Instagram if anyone wants to check this out. It's called Design No Technologies. You'll see this logo there. But it's only early days for us, so I can't say we've had a lot of clients, but making a business takes time. So this is some of our work that we've done. If you can see, like there's web apps, there's web pages. And here's our contact details if anyone wants to ask any questions. But yeah, that's it from me. Hope that was interesting for you guys.
Thank you very much. That was full of so many tips, and I see Noor's hand is up. Noor.
Nice to see you after a couple of years. I actually invited Noor as well on SPM a couple of years ago. So always Noor has been active after she's graduated and in touch with the university. I wanted to ask you a question about, so you set up your company and could you maybe give us an overview of how have you set up this company? Yes, or was it difficult to set up your company? And second, how can you manage working in your own job as well as working maybe part-time in a different company in a different area as well? It's a different topic, yes, or so you're not focusing on cybersecurity in that. So maybe if you could elaborate on that. Thank you.
So yeah, as I said, it's early days, so I can't say that I'm extremely busy with the business. It's just like whenever we get a client or someone that asks us questions, it's not really like hard for me to respond to them, but I can understand when things do blow up, then it probably would be hard, and people probably leave their job and then or pick one side. And starting the business, it was like we talked about it, and first we started it on Instagram, promoting it on there, but Instagram's not the best place for this kind of field to get customers, so we decided to make our profiles on Fiverr and Upwork, and that's what we are focusing on at the moment, and we are getting a couple of people contact us, so that's probably the best route, and then later on we'll focus on our Instagram again too, just for some publicity. But yeah, it's really good having kind of two areas I focus on, because I feel like one area is getting overwhelming for me. So like it's fun doing both sides for myself at the moment, and I can say I do have the time for that right now.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions from the audience? How did you stay motivated to apply for placements after having received rejections? What advice would you give to our students?
You just have to stay motivated. Like, you have to, like, if you want the work experience, relevant work experience, not just any work experience, then you have to just keep pushing yourself. Mostly I have faced rejections. The only job offer I did get was from Vodafone for my first internship and my second placement. It was only for the grad scheme that I got 2 offers. So you just have to keep applying if you want relevant work experience that will help you after you graduate. Because it's too competitive out there. One job role gets more than like 2,000-3,000 applications, and if you get to the end stages, then you're one of the lucky ones.
That's great advice. You have to keep applying, and you have to get one accept, right? So basically, and that's Vodafone is a wonderful company as well. So a large company to work with. So did you learn anything, just to complement that question, did you learn anything from the rejections, that you took that on board and applied? Did you get any feedback?
Yeah, most of the time, if you get to one of the later stages, they give you feedback, not just an automated email. But if you fail in like the early stages, you just get an automated email. So usually what I got was like either a report or like a phone call with feedback. For myself personally, I found it easier to apply for cybersecurity jobs because I was really focused on that area, so I had a lot to speak about. Whereas I feel like I might have not had performed too well in like a tech scheme if I had applied for, because that's so vague. There's so much is included in that. You really have to show like your passion for tech. But personally, applying for a specific scheme was better for me. So you have to really see what kind of person you are.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a question. Can you explain a bit more what being a Phisher consists of? So what's your day-to-day activity? You explained a little bit, but maybe more details.
Yeah, so I have to sandbox environment. So like I cannot, if someone sends me an email, I cannot just be clicking on the attachments or clicking on the links. So I have to isolate them. I have to investigate if it is phishing or not, and then if it is, I have to get it blocked off from our network, so no other people can be receiving it. And if we get a phishing campaign, we have to take extra measures, because then that means someone is actively trying to send emails to our staff.
Following on that question, I know a few people are still typing. What skills do you find most useful or transferable from your computer science degree to your job now? And do you, as a cybersecurity analyst, do you find yourself doing programming more or analysis more? What are the skills that you rely on most?
So one thing I really appreciate about Brunel is that they are not very programming focused. Like I heard like many other universities, they're just like really too focused on programming. I like that how we learn all the different aspects of computer science. So it broadened my mind about the different fields I could go into. And technology is not all about programming. For me, I wanted to stay away from programming, and I don't do any programming. Even in any of my placements or my grad scheme or my current role, I have done no programming. So it's not like when you study computer science, you have to only go into programming. There's like so many areas you can go into. You can go into design, you can go to web, you can go to front end, you can go into business management, you can go into like become like a project manager. That's all tech, but it's not programming. Even cybersecurity, there's some aspects that are programming, some aspects that are not, and I don't do any of the programming part.
What do you think universities could do to encourage more female students in computer science? And maybe reflect on your own experience at Brunel as well, and what would you have wanted differently?
Well, in my course, there wasn't that many girls, I have to say, but I think they're really increasing now. I don't know what it is that would make girls not want to do computer science. I think it's really interesting. I guess having talks like this where they see examples probably would encourage them as well. Maybe have like, I know you have the STEM center and all, and maybe doing activities in that just to introduce girls to tech. Maybe that would help them, intrigue them a little bit, because it is really interesting, the field, because it's very creative as well. Maybe if you show them that side as well.
You started as a cybersecurity analyst at Sky. How do you see your career prospects from here? What kind of journey are you imagining for yourself in the field of cybersecurity, and your current position can take you?
Yeah, so currently, as I've just come off the grad scheme, I'm kind of like a low-level analyst, but then there are like incidents that are more, that could do more damage. So I'm not on them yet. I'm doing a bit of the low mid-level incidents. So obviously go there, become like a senior principal analyst in the team, yeah, I think that's what mainly my team does. It's mainly like get the incidents, investigate, and then respond. So, but the response is different for each incident. So I have not done every single response yet.
Compared to your experiences with UX and cybersecurity, you decided to build your company around UX, UI design, and you're built, your own day-to-day expertise in cybersecurity. Do you see yourself going in one of these directions, or you're always going to be working in both?
I will always be between both, because I think I'm really passionate about cybersecurity. Like, it's made me think it's opened my mind. So when I'm online, I'm so cautious now, and I just can't stop thinking about it. And it's like, it is the future, like cyber wars and everything. So it will always be with me, but we'll see where the business goes and all. So I can't really say now, but I will always have that aspect. Who knows? What if I might even start something cybersecurity related? I don't know.
What technologies could I be learning now as a second-year student to make it easier to enter cybersecurity in the future?
It depends what area of cybersecurity you want to go to. If you want to do like pen testing, you can do things like on TryHackMe. If you want to do what I'm doing, you can do like Splunk course, like a Splunk course. It's more like investigation. It's a tool that helps you investigate. First, you need to identify what kind of security you want to learn. And then if you want to do a grad scheme in security, you should make sure you've built. One thing I also did was a open university course for cybersecurity. I can't remember the name for it exactly. They have a lot, but if you look on there, it's free. If you want the certification for it, you have to pay like £50-60, I think, and then you can do the exam for it, and then you'll get that like certificate you put on your LinkedIn. It looks good, and it increases your knowledge as well. And make sure you have that passion, because in assessment centers, that's what they look for. Even if you lack a little bit of knowledge, but you have the passion to learn, they will like you. So self-study before you get to beginning of final year. Maybe do your final year project on security, because then that will, and obviously do the cybersecurity module, and then apply for jobs accordingly. And then you'll know you just have a lot to talk about.
When you started your company, what prompted you to start your own company? Because you're in full-time work. What are the motivators for that? Or have you always considered yourself as an entrepreneur and wanted always to do this?
I have always wanted to start something of my own since, I don't know, since I was in sixth form maybe. I have always thought about it, but I always struggled to think of an idea. So when my husband came up with this idea of his, I said, yes, let's do it. It's a good idea. There's a lot of business in that area, and I'm good with managing people, so I can handle that part of it. And they both go hand in hand, because if you don't have someone that manages people, there's no one to communicate that to the designers, because most techie people they don't like talking. So
excellent. There is a question in the chat. What transferable skills are important working in cybersecurity?
You have to be fast thinking, because anything can change anytime. You can all of a sudden be called out to do anything. You have to always be like studying something, so you're aware of like what's happening in the news or what's going on in like a certain tool you're using, the updates, so you know like how to use it continuously, so nothing gets out of date. You have to really be careful about that in security.
Because you mentioned your experience in assessment centers in Sky as well, and one of the things that when people are applying to jobs is that you don't really know how the CVs are assessed or what makes a CV stand out, especially if you're going into a cybersecurity job, and tips for interviews to make you stand out, or preparation tips as well for those type of things. That will be very useful.
Yeah, for Sky, I know for sure they don't take any CV. They just tell you to sign up, and then they tell you to do the online exams. If you pass them, then you get to the assessment center part. So that's really good, that because I don't think many people even look at CVs anymore. But I think Raj would be the better person to talk to about CVs, and I can't stress enough that you should go to him, because he will make your CV stand out. And so what was the next part of your question?
You mentioned exams, and then afterwards there are interview stages, I guess. How many stages? Because this is a surprise for a certain, for some of our students and anybody who goes through different application processes with different companies, and there might be multiple stages involved. Yeah. Maybe explain the different stages and expectations in stages.
Okay, so mainly what they start off with is put in your details. And then you have to put in your CV or cover letter. I think cover letter is just like, they shouldn't even be asking for that anymore. Because it's like you have to change it for every job, and it's very lengthy to write. But they ask for it, and then after they assess that process, they tell you yes or no, we've moved you to the next stage. So usually the tests are, sometimes some companies have all of them, sometimes they have some of them. So they have like verbal, non-verbal, a maths test depending on the role, situational test, a video interview, which is like, it's not live, they recorded someone and they're asking you the question and you have to speak to your webcam, and then this all takes a couple of weeks, because once you receive the test, they give you like 3 days to do it, and then you have to wait for their response for every single stage. And then once you finally get to the assessment center, you have to, they probably put you in like a team scenario and give you like a fake task to do. Most assessment centers are like that, and they see how you perform under pressure and with a team, and in that scenario that they've given you, how well you problem solve.
Thank you very much. That was very useful. There are a couple of questions in the chat. Are you able to work from home, and if so, how often?
Yeah, so before COVID hit, I was able to work from home once a week, just like everyone else. And the rest of the days you would have to go in. But since COVID, we were working from home constantly. But for the past few months, we've been called back, so we go in like once or twice a week. But if someone wants to go in more often, they're more than welcome to. And most companies are like that now, like they've moved to hybrid working rather than every day coming in, because that's what the employees have requested.
Excellent. And the other question that we have on the chat is the ratio of women to men in your position in the department. And maybe I could add to that. And how does that change as you go up the ranks, basically?
Well, there's not many women at all. It's mainly men. But I see people are trying to join nowadays. That was my next question. Yeah, but yeah, I see like people are applying, more women are applying to security and tech roles these days, which is really good. But it's just like whoever gets in, right? And there's obviously more men applying, so they have more of a chance to get in. And it does reduce as you go up. There's less women when you go up, but most companies are trying to change that now, and they're trying to have like a certain percentage of women in like the leadership roles.
Okay, thank you very much. Going back to this flexible working and working from home options, what do you find more preferable in terms of scheduling your week? And do you see any advantage or disadvantage to working from home to, being able to go into the office?
Yeah, both have advantages and disadvantages. I think the only disadvantage of going to the office is like the commute. It really tires you out, like in the morning and in the evening. Being in the office itself is not like stressful, and you are more focused on your work there. At home, the advantage is that you're doing your work and you can get other things done at the same time, and then you don't get tired either because you're not commuting anywhere. You have the energy to go out in the evening, do whatever you want. But companies don't mind as long as the work is getting done, even if you're at home or in the office, they don't mind.
I was also wondering what some people also mention the hybrid scheme. Sometimes having to work online or being able, being remote affects your opportunities within the workplace, especially in olden times. Now with the pandemic, it's kind of changing, but being present at your desk has a different signal compared to having to work from home. And sometimes when women choose more flexible working options, they feel like their presence are not felt as much. But again, pandemic kind of shifted the politics
definitely
around that.
You're right, it did shift that, because people would have the stigma that I have to be there, otherwise if I'm not seen, then means I'm not doing any work. It was not like that, and I've seen in my previous workplace as well that people prefer to be at their desk, even though they're allowed to take breaks, they're allowed to go on walks, they're allowed to have lunch, but they wouldn't. But it's really good that COVID has shifted that stigma, and people are working as they please, even if it's coming in or not coming in. It's totally up to them.
Absolutely. I think we'll see more and more changes as well as our life changes with the pandemic. There is a question again. What advice would you give for your 1-2 students, especially because I want to get into cybersecurity and I don't really enjoy programming either. Also, how would you balance out all your modules and which ones to focus on more, and how much more time to put into study revision? I guess time management when you have a career plan in mind, how do you balance your studies versus your career plan as well? Yeah.
Well, I think basically, I'm telling this from experience, every module should be given the same amount of time, because even if you think a module is easy, it may be easy, but then it might be really content heavy. I'm telling this about SPM. Basically, I thought it was going to be, it's going to be so easy. And then it wasn't like complicated, but it was like so content heavy that I had to give it a lot of time, and I left it to the end, and that's not what you should be doing. and but yeah, all the modules should be given equal time, I think. And you basically, Brunel, I don't think they burden you too much. Like, you have deadlines, so they match up with each other. So it's like you submit one thing and then you move on to the next thing. So in between, like evenings and stuff, you have that time. You can be searching for jobs or even having like a social life.
I have a complementary question. What kind of training is available at work to you? And, how do you feel like you can continue your education, your training? And what is the accessibility of that training at different levels as well?
Yeah, so like speaking from Sky, they have apprenticeship schemes. So obviously people who have not got a degree, they can apply to that, and then they will do a qualification side by side. And they have like, they don't need to be working for like 5 days. They have like 1 or 2 days where it's set days for their studying. Apart from like that, they have like this Agile University where they advertise different courses. So for like many different things, like they have cyber courses, they have agile courses, they have degrees that you could do under like, and Sky will pay for it. So that's there for the whole company. And then you can also talk to your line managers about being in any training that will help your role. So I've been provided with some, and they're all paid for. And then later on in your career, when you feel more comfortable, do like a professional qualification, like the CCNA exam or any exam, they will, if you pass the exam, they will refund you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. There's a question on the chat. It will feel like an interview now. What do you hope to have achieved? Where do you want to be in 5 years' time?
Probably achieved a lot more in my current team and being in a senior role, probably maybe managing someone. I think I do see myself as a manager. I think staying away a bit from the tech. I like to stay in the technical area, but maybe like more on the management side of things.
Are you able to work with different departments, or you just have to work in cybersecurity? So collaboration across different departments, or being able to explore working in different departments, is that possible?
Yeah, that is definitely possible. So as I applied for the cyber scheme, I only rotated around cyber teams, but there is this thing in Sky where, I know other companies do that too, where you can talk with like another manager and see, like, do some training with them, work with them for like a couple of months, with the mutual understanding of your manager, because they obviously have to let you go for a while. And then you work with them. And then if the new manager and yourself like that new role, then you can be moved. And I've seen someone do that just recently.
So mobility around at work is possible. Okay. How did you initially become interested in computing, and what made you want to study it at a degree level?
I was interested in computing since childhood, I have to say. And I basically pursued that, like, when I was choosing my GCSEs, I chose ICT. When I was choosing my A-levels, I chose ICT. And it was kind of like, it wasn't like I made the decision all of a sudden. I was always interested in it from childhood. I was like playing with wires and stuff from, those old computers, the big ones. So that's, and then when I did choose, I was really interested in business and ICT. So it was just the decision between if I should go to business or computer science. But computer science had business within it, so that made it easier. So I got to learn both sides.
Just to complement that question, has it been different than what you imagined as a child, the career in computing? what you imagined
I
and
did not
what you
ever
found.
imagine a career in computing. I only imagined like, yes, I enjoy it and I'm just going to study it. I did not think that far.
I see. Okay. Any regrets?
And no, when I went back to my school as well, they were all like, "Oh wow, you're doing this."
Excellent. Will Microsoft certification in security, compliance, and identity fundamentals be helpful in starting a career as cybersecurity analyst? Maybe I can complement that question. There are several certification schemes provided by, you mentioned a few as well. How useful are they to advance in your career, to access to the job as well as advance in the job?
Yeah, so it will definitely increase your knowledge, which will give you access to the job, because they do, in assessment centers at entry level, they do see that they want to see that you have a basic knowledge. Something that they can build on. And then obviously when you get in, you will need to focus more on something more advanced, which they will help you with. But yes, any qualification that you do will help you get like an entry level knowledge on any subject. So, and if you guys are really interested in cybersecurity, make sure you choose the module, because it gives you a good understanding, a good feel of what the area is like, because they cover many aspects of security. And I only realized that when I did my rotations, like the module did not only fit into one team, it kind of went around all the teams.
Okay. And so just the certifications like Microsoft do count and get respected in the applications.
They get respected, but that won't give you the job. They will that will make you knowledgeable, and that's what they see. That's what they want you to have, the knowledge.
And that would be basically assessed during the different levels that you go through. You mentioned. Okay, so certification will give them a hint, but you will have to show knowledge during their assessments.
Yeah, because like even at Vodafone, I heard like some people, they look all fancy with all the qualifications, but they can't do the job. Then what's the point?
Obviously, yes. Interviews and assessments are for that, for checking whether the knowledge acquired during the modules and the studies and the certifications are practiced or basically understood by the person. Let me look at my notes. We've covered a lot of different things, just to give from placements to job applications to career in cybersecurity. And thank you so much for sharing your tips with us. I think it was useful to both students and the academics in the call, and I can see more questions are being chat. This is not my closing. Basically, I will wait for those questions. Again, when you reflect back, for instance, the placement here, do you feel like it played a huge role in your career, and whether it's impacted where you are, or if you reflect back on it in retrospect, would you have done anything differently?
It definitely is the reason why I am here. Because before that, I had no idea in which area I wanted to go into. If I hadn't done this scheme in cybersecurity, I would probably be applying for a generic tech scheme, going around different tech teams, finding out what I enjoy. But it was really good that I got the opportunity to do a placement. That's why I'm saying, do a placement, even if you don't like it, as long as you know what you don't like, then you won't be applying to that.
Okay. I, again, thank you for coming in today, and I've learned so much from what you said. Okay. Was it a 10-week internship you did after a year?
Yes, after first year.
Yeah, after first year. Mm-hmm. But you did a placement here as well, first year.
Yeah.
They're asking your experiences in the first year. Did you do an internship after your first year?
Yeah, it was in the summer of
the first year.
Yeah, after first year, before second year.
Before second year, yeah. Question. Noor is raising her hand. Please, Noor.
Yes, I wanted just to follow up on the internship as well. How important was doing an internship to get a placement? Is there a relationship because now we are trying to encourage even students to do internships. So if you could just maybe mention a bit about your experience.
Yeah, so as I mentioned that when I finished my internship in the summer, when I started applying for placements again, they said you had good feedback, so we will take you on again. And they took me on without any other assessment because I had already done the assessment center and everything for the summer internship. So they kind of already knew where I was, and they had probably my manager's feedback, I think. So they took me on without any assessment center, and they just asked me which area I would like to go into. And I'm glad that they asked me, because then that's how I chose security.
Just to follow up on that, you found your current job through the graduate scheme as well, right? You started with them as a graduate scheme, and then you were offered a full-time opportunity as well. So starting, as an internship created a placement opportunity for you. Starting at the graduate scheme gave you access to the workplace as a full-time person. So wonderful ways to enter that workplace, actually. And also get the necessary training from them as well. I guess the graduate schemes come with some trainings preparing you for the role. So then you did your placement in your third year. No, that's not possible.
It was the third year.
Yeah. So the first year, you did your second year, then you went on a placement year, the third year, and then the fourth year is your third year in the university, basically, final year.
And just to let you know, guys, when you do a placement, you do like an assignment with it, and it pulls your grade up. So that's also useful.
So that affects your GPA, basically, grade point average. Mm-hmm. Another motivation to do a placement.
Yeah.
I think we're done here. Thank you so much again for coming and talking to us today. I truly appreciated all the tips that you've shared with us, and I'm sure our students did as well. And I am, lots of thanks coming in. This is going to be recorded and made available to our students as well, and I'm sure watching after they'll find a lot of tips there useful to navigate their own careers. Steve, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, so I'm sure everyone can see why it was so valuable having Noor and the open days. I mean, my job was pretty useless when Noor was there, because everyone was listening to especially when you mentioned cyber, because that, everyone's interested in that sort of stuff. So it's really great, and some of the tips you've given us all today are really useful, Noor, for how we try and encourage students to do placements and their revision, and to allocate equal time to all modules, because no one is particularly more important than the other. So I think there's huge numbers of things which our students can take away, and I just thank you for sharing that with us. So and it's a pleasure to see you again. So thanks. I think that's all I can say, really.
Thank you very much. Okay, everybody, thanks for coming in and listening as well, and thank you for your insightful questions. I think it led us to really interesting discussions, and then we can say bye now, and I'll see you.
Thank you, everyone.